Welcome to Amtgard Leadership University. We're sitting here happily at the Known World War where we're going to start talking about recruitment and retention. With us today we have Alby K'Zan, Moose, and Tenebrus, and they're going to walk us through some of the tried and proven techniques that they've done to really increase the numbers of the local parks and hopefully share a few lessons learned so that you don't go through the same trials and pitfalls that they did on your way to succeeding and growing your park to as good and as successful as you'd like it to be. In order to get things going, what I would ask you to do is start from my left to my right. Alby, if you will, just give us a good 60 seconds. Introduce yourself to Amtgard proper, and then do me a quick favor and just share maybe a couple tips or something you want to make sure we discuss today.
All right. Again, my name is Alby K'Zan. I've been in the game for about 10 years. I've been in the game about 10 years. I joined a park called Five Banners back in Tulsa. We joined the Emerald Hills a while back. We had to actually work really well with retention and building numbers. We were actually trying to build a principality called Dreadmore for a while. So it gave us a good opportunity to really identify from the beginning to really where the structure went and get a good solid foundation. And I mean, for a long time, people didn't think Amtgard existed in Oklahoma, and as of now, it's been really flourishing for a long time.
Great, thank you.
So,
Moose?
My name is Moose, and I am the current monarch of Razor Hills in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I've been playing for, last year was my 14th year. I've been, I guess I've been a driving force for, at least in a smaller part, for a lot of the parks in Arkansas. I actually started at a now defunct one that used to play in Russellville. I've played for all over the state, and I was able to have the opportunity to found my own park in 2009, and have seen that get really huge and kind of slow down as well, but we've had a similar situation of being able to really see how things can change with that and still be able to keep going strong and have good core players that can set good examples and do well as far as anything that I've tried to help with them. So we've had a lot of good luck with it. So
Great. Tenebrus?
My name is Tenebrus. Everyone calls me Ten. I've been playing about 10 years now. When I started playing, I actually started the game pretty well cold. I had never interacted with another Amtgarder and founded a park. A lot of what I have learned over the years is that you have to approach like recruitment and retention like you're in sales. The idea, you just have to drive that awareness of what Amtgard is. I've had a lot of success doing that, especially recently online. It's just been phenomenal to watch some of the parks I've been around with or interacted with, just watch them explode and grow and really start to turn Amtgard into a thing in Kansas City, Missouri area, and also out on the East Coast.
All right, great, thank you. I really want to get started with something here at the very beginning. How do you get community buy-in as far as maybe not the park itself, but the local area?
well, in Tulsa, we did actually do what we called a water fight. It was a fundraiser setup where we invited people out. We did a setup where there was food offered, just the populace. We actually put it in the Tulsa World. And there was a news reporter who came out and did a little story on it, and actually worked on the history of Amtgard and put it in the paper. And when they came out, we actually did good with just fundraising, but as well as several mundanes came out and had a good time just watching and participating with what happened.
Moose?
in the Fayetteville area, we are very active as far as a lot of the fun stuff that goes on in the community. We're very fortunate to have multiple Comic Cons that go on as well. We do a lot of our recruiting from there, and we march in a lot of the city's parades, which gets us completely exposed to all the people who are nothing to do with Amtgard that actually get to see us. We've got our name out there, we've got our faces out there, we march right through downtown and we go and introduce people, we pass out information, and we have actually gotten recruits from doing that as well, and we just make it very, very well known that, hey, we're here, and we do this every year, so it makes a huge difference, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of good exposure.
All right, thank you. Tenebrus, here's a question for you. Sure. So what are your proven tips for recruiting? If you've got 60 seconds to answer that question, what's the first stuff that comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is exposure. You find every possible channel you can to get the name of your park, what we do, and where and when you play out into the world. Be it online, be it flyers, be it doing demos, movies, be it Comic-Cons, parades that they mentioned are fantastic.
Yes.
Anything you can do to get the name Amtgard, and then where and when your chapter meets, is the best thing you can do for recruiting.
Alby, how about you?
Craigslist and activity. Craigslist and activity. You got activity with consistency, because there for a while when we were, at Five Banners, we were trying to have, we were going to Kingdom events all the time, and if there was a weekend that no one was at park, people that just randomly showed up didn't come back. So we actually had to make sure that there was somebody stationed at park every weekend. We made it very adamant that we're here every Saturday at 1 o'clock, no matter what, rain, sleet, or snow. We will be there. Somebody will be there to represent the park. And as well as, like I said, Craigslist, the reason why I say that is literally if you've got somebody who will sit there and keep posting up articles constantly and making them active so they keep popping up on people's feeds for whenever they want to find a group activity to do, literally we've got half of our park came from Craigslist because they saw it and said, hey, we're going to go try that out. Now, they have to understand that, of course, Amtgard is, where it starts and where it's going to begin, but we've created a community about it, so it's a good time.
Okay. Moose, any silver bullets?
Talk about it. Constantly bring it up. Talk to your friends. Talk to people at work. Get those little spider legs going out. A lot of the recruitment that we've done, aside from all the other activities we do, is word of mouth. And that is a good, easy way to just get your feelers out there and start bringing people in. Just talk to people, encourage that, always bring it up where you're at. Talk to one person, they'll talk to two, they'll talk to four, they'll talk to six, and it'll blow up, and then you still got people coming. So always discuss it. Just talk to anybody about it.
Alby, you mentioned something about it. You said it, rain, sleet, snow, regardless, 1 o'clock, there's somebody there. Mm-hmm. Is that a conscious effort? Do you all make an effort to make sure there's always somebody there? You just sort of hope?
We organize it, and we showed up on Christmas, 1 o'clock on Saturday. We were there. It's going to happen because we want people to know that no matter what happens, this is consistency. They can rely on us to be there, and it's just really transpired. We've had literally ice all over the ground, all over the grass. We fought in the parking lot. We're going to go out. It was safer in the parking lot for us to go fight, but we wanted to make sure people knew we were going to be there. So,
Tenebrus, has your experience been about the same, or?
Yeah, fairly. Having someone out at the park consistently like that has always been a huge thing. And making a conscious effort to organize it is also, I can't add anything to what he said. Rain, sleet, or shine, fight in the parking lot if you have to. That is perfect and sums it up so well. To piggyback on what Moose said about word of mouth, you hear about word of mouth being the number one way to recruit people for Amtgard, and for me, I've always found that it's finding that new player, that one new person, and talking to them and getting them enthused about it is what will drive that word of mouth beyond anything. Yep. Because that guy knows two more friends, and they know two more friends, and suddenly you have 5 new players.
Pull them out of the woodwork. Definitely.
Now, Moose, you said parade, and I'll tell you, my experience, the parades usually don't result in a whole lot, other than it's a great opportunity just to show off a little bit. What's your experience been with the parades, and then maybe what do you think you're doing so well with them?
We've had some good years. We've had some slow years with it. It's just kind of back and forth. We do it because it is fun, but it's just something fun to do. We just go ahead in there and do it anyway, regardless if we're going to be able to pull 10 people or not. The fact that we're still getting out there every year and just being loud and as noisy and showing off as possible. You never know. Even if you're able to at least pull one player from that in the hour that we're out there, makes a huge difference. So it's just more or less just one of those things you just keep doing it. So and it's a lot of fun, and the city loves us for us. So why not?
Sure.
So
we talked a little bit about the good stuff and some of the silver bullets and the first one, but so any horror stories, Alby? What don't you do?
Well, I have seen experienced players turn around and run newbies off very easily because a newbie wants to come out and it's like everything's a new flower. It wants to see it grow and blossom, and they throw all this stuff at it. And they want to go in and here's all these great things, and they're so excited they're trying to share it, but sometimes a newbie needs to just take it in one step at a time. And I also have seen experienced fighters come in and you got a new person who's trying to learn how to fight. They don't want to come out and get necessarily just trounced every 5 seconds. They want to learn some. So I've literally at times pulled my better fighters back and said, hey, this is a newer individual. I'm not saying take it easy on them, but pull back just a little bit. Don't try and trounce them, because I want them to come back next week. They'll get better. They get stronger. If you've ever worked with a newer individual, they weren't, Brennan or somebody like that the first day. They came out and they had to learn. I mean, I remember when I first showed up, my goal in the game was not necessarily running for stuff. It was, I'm going to come out and have a good time. Well, sometimes you got to allow that platform for them to have a good time.
Okay. Tenebrus, he talked a little bit about the fighting and really sometimes that's what drags or pulls people in. Just obviously it's a little bit more flamboyant and stuff like that. Do you think it hurts sometimes? What are the risks whenever that new player comes out excited with their double-headed axe and then they go on the field and they get smacked around with the short sword?
I don't think it's necessarily it's a bad thing. When you get those new players that make some of those weapons that aren't necessarily going to help them skill-wise, it's definitely can be a blow to the ego if they take it out there and swing in those huge swings, and then it's not very effective. But if you just let it end at, okay, well, that was terrible and you shouldn't bring that weapon back, you've lost that player. Flip side, though, is if you say that's a great-looking weapon, here's your first owl, that's a wonder. You maybe kept that player, and maybe they'll keep going, and they might switch to a short sword, or they might just enjoy having the giant axe and telling them, you know what, I'm not gonna be effective, but go have fun. That's gonna go so well for them. And if you, how do I phrase this?
Encourage the small things.
Yeah, and that's a great way to phrase it. Thank you. I sort of lost my.
I will tell you, I had a guy spend the entire weekend making a staff. He came out, first person that grabbed it, checked it out for legality, said, "Oh, it's not legal," and threw it to the ground. Didn't check, say, here's how I can make it legal. Here's how I can help you, teach you how to, make it work. No, just take it, not legal, done. And I went and grabbed the item. Let's sit down and let's work on this. I had to retract that statement, make them work, because I've seen people take that opportunity and go, no, and then walk away. So.
Moose, you mentioned a little bit about one of your parks are now defunct. Without going into details on that, though, but it really brought up the mindset that some parks are happy the way they are. How, as a leader, Moose, do I encourage people to break through and get back to recruiting? Because sometimes we plateau and we're happy to hang out with our friends. How do I remotivate them? You would be surprised at how different types of communication and having a positive attitude makes a huge difference. And it would probably seem a little bit crazy of you're just that one person who's always smiling all the time and does not take any mess from anybody makes a difference. And it's not with keeping players, but also preventing players from just up and quitting. I've dealt with this repeatedly. I've prevented actually one of my guys who's here. I've talked him out of quitting over something silly because I went and took the time to speak with him outside of game to figure something out. But it's having that positive attitude, being able to spread that out a little bit, and you've got another person who's like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, or another person, yeah, we're going to go ahead and be positive about that. It's infectious, and that helps with that. Positive attitude. Always be positive about that. You never forget that.
You're going to have a bad day. You're going to get sloughed at some point. People will get frustrated with that. It's how you respond to that person coming to you and going, hey, this just happened. I'm upset about it. And you have to respond accordingly. And, of course, address it, but give them that personal touch of, here's what I see, here's what happened. Let's work through it. And it makes them feel like that you at least listened to them and you cared about what was going on. That's what Amtgard really is. It's about caring about the individuals involved. So
you guys have both touched on something that answers that question so well, talking about enthusiasm and communication. When you've got a park that's happy to be 4 guys ditching for 2 hours every week, it only takes one of those 4 people to start recruiting again. Yep. Like, it just takes one person to go, you know what? I would have more fun in this ditch if I had 6 people. Yep. That's it. That's numbers all help. It takes. And just being open and enthusiastic about it and saying, you know what? Let's more wax, more people, more fun. Like, it just takes one person to get the ball rolling there.
Mm-hmm. On tying it to that, funny story. A reason why, Dreadmore blew up so big for real quick. Red Storm went and kidnapped a bunch of people from Riverstone. Literally went up there and said, hey, we need people to help us run a convention. We're going to do a fighter pit. All right, so we kidnapped about 6 or 7 of them. Well, they met some people at DEF CON at the time, and there was about 3 or 4 of them that lived in Tahlequah. Well, one of the kids that they met went back, told all of his friends. Literally within about 6 months, they blew up to 60 people. That one person they met at a convention went back, said, I'm in high school, I know some friends, I want to bring some people out, and literally it blew up. I mean, it took one person to do it. And of course, we're kind of jealous because we brought them over to our event, and stuff. But hey, it worked out because really at that point we were able to say, okay, Dreadmore's growing, Amtgard's growing, everything's working out. So it was a good time.
Moose, whose job is it to recruit?
Mostly mine.
The populace, every person.
I think
Everybody.
But if you look into corporates and stuff like that, we really don't have one. We got tracking of membership and things like that. So whose job is it?
I've always advocated that while it's everyone's job, the local monarch should be the person driving it. And if they're not the person, if they recognize it but they don't want to drive it or they don't feel like they're good at it,
I do a lot of the organizing.
Invent a new position and say you're my new recruiter.
The monarch has to facilitate it a little bit and set up some platform for you to go out and actually, like the conventions and all that. I mean, the monarch will be the one going to the community, getting all these areas set up, or like the conventions or parades or something like that. And then, of course, you bring people in, like your general park populace. Say, hey, let's go recruit. Let's go get people involved. So,
have any of you ever done something that, like a demo or whatnot, that was not fighting based to try and expand to maybe the artisans and things like that?
We have actually. We had we took a little bit of a break from one of our demos at the Arkansas Anime Festival, and because the majority of it is fighting. We are expanding into doing Amtgard Light. I'll explain that later, but we did bring in a whole bunch of different armor and all sorts of just sewing items and whatnot, and we actually had everybody come up and just kind of inspect everything. We explained all that, and a lot of people enjoyed that. We haven't done it since. But it was a good fresh take on that, and a lot of our players really enjoyed seeing a lot of the different items that we use. So it was pretty cool.
If we're comfortable with me using a cross game story, then yes.
Sure.
Okay. So I have participated in some other LARPs.
Wait, is it a bad story? Like they failed miserably?
No, it's a great
stole
story.
people?
It's a positive story. It was a very successful story. So one of the other LARPs I've played over the years was based out of Northern Virginia, and for a recruiting event, they offered all their players the opportunity to go to George Mason University and participate in a purely role-play event. And it's a campaign style game, so they offered some in-game bonuses to their players, but everyone that went basically showed up and was able to interact with a number of different individuals and people, and then they sort of scattered throughout the campus and sort of rolled all that role play forward through a whole bunch of other people just to get the word out about who they were and what they were doing and where you could find them. And it actually ended up bringing in like 5 or 6 new people for them the next time they played. And it was nothing but just being in garb, in character, talking to people on a college campus. So
we once did a halftime show for a girls' roller derby deal. It was a good time. I mean, it was. They literally stepped away, and we actually did a Black Knight scene where one of our guys, came back later on after we did a little tourney thing, and he came back and was like, afterwards, that I'm not dead yet. And of course, I got tackled and stabbed in the middle of the whole layout. It was a good time. We had an announcer and everything set up. It was theatrical, so it was
Awesome.
Good.
Moose, have you ever considered the demographics whenever you're trying to recruit? And by demographics, it can be gender, sex, or obviously that's the same thing, but gender, race, or even, for lack of a better term, nerd or jock, or is that a consideration?
We just want to get everybody. We love everybody, so that's never been a factor, never been an issue. We just we've got a little bit of everybody, at least in our area, playing from all walks of life. So. If you got 2 legs and you can run, you can hit people with sticks, you're good, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I have a little bit in that I've always considered population density of an area, major, more urban cities versus the more suburban or even further out in the rural areas. That's a factor, but not like anyone. If you can swing a stick, you can play Amtgard, and that knows no boundaries.
I'll go one further. You don't even have to swing a stick to play Amtgard. There's something in Amtgard for everybody. I mean, literally, think about what you do. My wife has not picked up a stick really to fight anything. She's a knight because she wants to give and do things for the kingdom. You know, I've got people that like to craft. They want to sit down and make things. I like doing crafty stuff. I like to do leather work. I mean, at some point, I like to go hit two people with sticks too. But really, there's something in Amtgard for everyone. And so, yeah, I like to say I want to bring the ladies out because guess what? Guys will follow where ladies go. I don't care who you are. I'm just being true. But at the end of the day, you know what? Everybody come out.
So let's talk about the everybody. What about families? When you asked if Amtgard is family friendly, obviously it's diverse depending on the park and the whoever's playing there. But is Amtgard family friendly or?
Amtgard is a community. I mean, really, it is. You know, there are times I will say that I would say later at night at events, it may not be the most family friendly situation, but honestly, I don't want my 12-year-old kid up 2 o'clock in the morning anyway. So, I mean, I want people to feel welcome to bring their kids out, but at some point, you know, things may get a little crazier than what I would expect in a normal day. But I mean, it should be fun and friendly for all. I mean, there's nothing that should be partaking that is against the laws or illegal or anything like that. People should be able to come out and feel free and have a good time, and they should be able to feel comfortable and strong bringing their family out.
It's safe.
It's safe.
It is a very, very, very safe environment. Okay. So probably like it just bring everybody out here. You really don't have to worry about anything. So very, very safe environment.
Yeah. It's sort of a yes but answer. Like,
yes,
it's family friendly. Amtgard is family friendly. Not all Amtgarders are family friendly.
Say it ain't so. That's why we have bands.
So obviously we just came off of the spring muster, the inaugural event there, focused on recruitment and a little bit of aspect of retention. So I want to focus on retention a little bit as we start getting into the second half of this hour block. So now we've got them. It was successful. Our one person grew into 5 people, grew into 60 people. How do I keep them?
Again, building as a community. I mean, I've seen people come in, they don't just go to Amtgard. They go to Amtgard, then they go to a gaming session, or they go hang out with friends afterwards to go to the movies. I mean, it's not just I come to park to, I go hit my friends with sticks. I go to park and I have friends. And it's really making that connection with people. And as a monarch, you kind of set things up to make that connection. Make sure, hey, what's going on? What concerns do you have? How can I help make your experience here more fun? But not just here. How can I make your experience in life more fun? I mean, we've had people reach out and help people with donations and funds and just help them as a group, as a person in their everyday lives. I've gone and picked up people to take them to work if I need to, just to help make them feel more welcome in our community as Amtgard. So,
Moose?
I think you about nailed it on that, honestly.
I have moments where I speak well.
No, it's fine. I think you got it for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm getting phone calls of, Moose, I need to borrow your truck. I got to move.
Team. I mean, really, it is. You got to feel welcome at your park to be able to come in and share any concerns, but as well as just come and relax and be you. Amtgard is your way to get away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Something that I've noticed is just never stop asking people, what do you want to do today? What do you enjoy doing about Amtgard? And then finding them the opportunities to do it at park, off the week, like during the week. Do you like fighting? Hey, let's set up a fighter practice. And so, I mean, just keeping people is all about keeping them engaged and entertained and finding the things that keep them coming back and offering those things consistently.
Does anybody have any tips for dealing with more the veteran players that maybe have distanced themselves from being inclusive of the new players? Any experience you want to share? Obviously, we don't need names, but and then tell us how it went.
Well, I mean, I've seen members try and pull themselves back as, some people feel like I've reached a certain point, I can retire, I can do this. Again, just even with a new player, you got to find a way to engage them in the game. I mean, I've seen people try and transition their focus in the game, whether it's I'm going for a sword belt or I'm going for being the better fighter. Now I've learned, I've seen these things over here. I want to learn how to do that. So they're transitioning their focus, and it's taking that item and encouraging it. Even I myself, I've done these things in the game. Now I'm trying to find ways to learn other items. I mean, I've tried to learn to pick up sewing, and I've learned how to pick up, like I said, leather crafting or metalworking. How can I find my focus and transition it somewhere else now that I've accomplished my goal over here? And it's just giving people different goals. So,
Moose, you want to elaborate or add to that?
I guess maybe trying to help them keep a sense of they're still important to the group. I would feel if you kind of get to maybe like some type of plateau. Maybe you've done everything, you're still trying to figure out what you can do, and I can understand if someone can kind of feel like, well, I've done everything, so I can't really think of anything else I can do. That person might actually feel like, well, I can't contribute anymore. Try to at least still make them feel welcome. Make them feel like they are still an intricate part of your group, the community, et cetera, and just having them know, again, positive attitude of, hey, we still need you. I still want to hang out with you. We still need you for this and this and this. Make them feel important. And that right there is going to keep that veteran player. Instead of, oh, well, we're done with you. No. Make them feel important.
Tim?
I love this question because I've been that veteran player. I reached a point of burnout at one point in my time playing the game where I didn't necessarily feel like I was part of the group anymore. And the tip that I would give to anyone who sees a player who's reached that point where they're not interacting with the newbies or they just don't seem that engaged is ask them why. Is, make that point of saying, okay, well, why aren't you talking to some of those other new players? Why are you distancing yourself? Is there something else going on? Is it personal life? Is there some kind of drama? It will vary from person to person, but if you've got veteran players that are not interacting with new players, there's always a reason for it. It's just a matter of finding that reason and solving it. Like solving for, okay, is there a problem? Is it just, are you tired? Finding out what that reason is and finding a solution that meets everyone's needs is the best way to kind of approach that.
But whose job is it to have that conversation with the vets?
Honestly, other vets. I mean, somebody who knows the person. I mean, people are going to listen to it from somebody that they feel closer with anyway. I mean, if some new person came up to somebody and said, well, why aren't you participating? Why aren't you doing this? They're going to go, get away. I'm done. I'm done for a moment. Just leave me alone. But if somebody who knows that person, whether it's the monarch of the park or just somebody that's their friend, who reaches out to them and says, "Hey, I mean, what's kind of holding you back right now?" I mean, because at the end of the day, something's holding them back from fully engaging in the park and what it is. So at that point, somebody reaching out and identifying, "Hey, I want to help you. Where's the path? How can we have fun again?" And trying to make that conversation happen. So because what is it an experienced player offers? Tutelage and experience. They can give that to anybody. It's just up to them to be able to feel comfortable presenting that idea. So,
Moose, women make up 51% of the world's population. They probably make up 3% of Amtgard. How do we fix that? Do we need to fix it?
As far as having them involved or just fighting or just in general?
To be able to say, I am an Amtgarder in whatever niche that they're comfortable with.
Sure. Recruit more women players. Make it appealing to them.
How do you make it more appealing to women players?
you're the female. You got to ask that question.
Yeah, I know.
Or whatever, please, throw it out there.
I think from
That's a good question.
from a fighter's perspective, because 90% of the stuff I do is fight. A lot of women would come into this seeing that most of it is fight. A little bit of A&S and everything else. Of course, this game offers a little bit for everybody, but the main focus is fighting. A lot of girls are a little bit hesitant on getting hit because they're thinking, oh well, some dude's gonna come out here and beat the tar out of me or anything like that. And I think with having that mindset, and it's a common mindset for a lot of women to kind of shy up and tense up with just getting hit on or anything like that. And just going and talking to them and encouraging them, no, get out here and take some of that rage out on these dudes, it's fine. Or on that chick right over there, whatever, she looked at you funny. Just encourage them. You can get out here on the field and you can do this. You can step off to the side and do this. Anytime I see any other female on the field fighting, I'll go right up with her and be like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take out these two dudes right here. and I'll see that chick go from a little bit hesitant to just rolling the field. A little bit of encouragement. Keep it going with that. So, best thing I can think of.
Just making it a more welcoming environment, really. I mean,
Yes.
because still, people say, want to say that they don't, take things different, when it comes male or female. I see people do, and it's just really making it equal across the board. At that point, when you see a girl on the ditch field, I thought it was hilarious. So people, when I first did a tournament, flare, I was fighting, surf flare at the point in time. They're like, "Oh, don't get beat by a girl." I was like, she's gonna kick the crap out of me. Watch, and she did. And it shouldn't matter if she's a girl or a guy. That it's the way it lays out there. But she's a better fighter. That's what should have mattered.
And don't talk smack.
Yes.
Because it's rude.
Don't talk smack as in like
female
smack, or just smack in general?
as in oh, well, that chick's blah blah blah, or she sucks or anything like that. Like, don't sit there and talk down to somebody. You don't need to talk down to anybody in general. I don't care who you are. You do not talk down to people, regardless in the ditch field. I understand a little bit of joking here and there, but if you want to get more female, if you want to get, regardless of fighting or ANS, if you want to get more women in this, do not talk down to them, because 9 times out of 10, just with how society is, sometimes that's going to happen. Don't talk down to them. Don't talk down to anybody.
Make it the same environment for everyone.
Exactly. Be nice.
Something else I can add on top of that is I've seen parks that have successfully had a fairly even ratio of men and women. And I think the thing that they did the two things they did that were most different was they treated everyone like an individual, like you guys have been talking about. You're not a girl, you're not a guy, you're not this company, that company, newbie, veteran, whatever, you're a person.
Yep.
And so just treating them like a person goes a long way. And then on top of that, if you have an interested new player who happens to be female, you make a point of the first person that goes to talk to them and explains what Amtgard is not the guy that's going to go over there and say, you're cute. Don't have that guy be the guy teaching her how to play the game, because she is never coming back.
Do any of you have a designated person that introduces themselves to new players or anything like that, or you just?
Typically me. I mean, when it comes to our part, because I have been in the game for a while, it's been very successful. Where I will step aside and they'll say, "Hey, Albie, go. There's a new person over there who's interested. They seem to be watching what's going on. Go talk to them." And literally, I'll be on the ditch field and I get pulled off the ditch field to go talk to them. And it's generally because, A, I've been in the game for a while, and B, I've held a lot of positions. I know a lot about the game, but I want to make them feel welcome. And I try to approach them as just more of, hey, let's just come be friends. Have a good time.
We do the same thing at my current park. We have a gentleman who's been playing a long time and is someone who just has enough life experience that he can kind of make sure he's tailoring his teaching when they're showing people the ropes to individual different players. So he's sort of our go-to person. We're working and toying with the concept of having almost a greeters guild, where we have 3 or 4 people that kind of work off the same script for new players and for interested people, so that we know, okay, so this person's, they're over there looking, he's unavailable because he's doing something else. Well, we know someone else who's going to be really good to go talk to them. And it works really, really well, just because having one individual person who's at least in charge of even the basic instruction of, okay, this is how we play tag as grown-ups, that it's consistent, with every single person. And so you kind of give everyone a good jumping off point that's the same base. And then that person is usually also someone who can, like, if you have executed correctly and have that one person, they also know, well, what are you interested? Well, in. And you can even point them and say, well, this gentleman over here is really good at that. You should talk to him.
Okay. We're about to start wrapping things up, but I've got one last question before we go into closing points there. And everybody's going to get an opportunity on this one. But Alby, the code of conduct, has that been a positive for recruitment, retention overall, or has it impacted it at all? Thoughts?
Well, I mean, in general, as we keep talking about creating a welcoming place, it has had an impact because everybody makes sure that, the code of conduct is enforced. It's followed. So even with just newer individuals, the way we hold the park accountable, they feel the atmosphere is more welcoming and more a safe environment in general. So,
Moose, thoughts?
In our area, yes. Considering that Fayetteville has a very prominent, what's the word for it?
Diverse.
I'd say, yeah, LGBT community. Yeah, Fayetteville has a very high LGBT community. We have a diversity parade every year, and we've taken points to not only make it welcoming for men and women, but whatever orientation. So definitely code of conduct is good for that, and we enforce it and we encourage it. Works out pretty good. So.
I haven't had the opportunity to exercise the code of conduct too much yet. I've seen it exercised to great effect, but I think it's overall long term going to help the game's retention levels and going to help our recruiting levels, because it gives us the tools we need to take some of those people that are potentially toxic to our recruiting efforts. Like if you have players that just won't follow the rules and cause problems, it gives you the ability in the toolkit to address those players. And we didn't have that very much before. And so it's been a bit of a painful process getting there, I feel like, in my observation. But I think slowly but surely it's going to be a huge boon to the game long term. I haven't personally had really to deal with it that much. Most of the places that I've played, everybody tends to get along and everyone follows the rules.
Okay. This is another question for everybody. I want to throw in there. You each have only 2 ways that you can attempt to recruit. And no broad statements like online and offline. Alby, what's your top 2 things? If there were only 2 ways you could recruit, what would you do?
I said Craigslist was one. I mean, that's just in general because it works really effectively of just keeping it in people's faces. And Meetup was pretty successful as well. I mean, that one does cost a little more, but in general, it's something that gets people. I'm trying to meet people in the community. What can I do? And they start searching and they find it. So,
okay, Moose.
Um,
And no saying ditto.
no, I've actually got 2 different ones. A lot of the local conventions that we do, because we've been fortunate in having multiple conventions go on in our area, and media, newspapers, radio, all that. We've got tons of radio stations and Facebook's a good one too, but we've got a whole bunch of radio stations, TV stations and whatnot, and newspapers and all that, and we've used that pretty much to the full extent. That is a huge help. So top 2 right there.
10, you can't use any of those ideas. What are your 2 ways?
Oh, you took Meetup from me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. If you're in a decent sized city, that is one of the best ways
We
to go.
kind of have to.
So for retention, I'm gonna go backwards. For retention, once you have that new player, incentivizing them to keep coming out and to bring out their friends. Be it, we ran a very successful initiative where if you brought a friend for 4 weeks, you got a bonus credit in your favorite class. So yeah, incentivizing recruiting and retention to new players to drive word of mouth.
That's a good idea.
Huge right there. That's a massively successful thing I've seen. And then I would honestly say movie theater demos. That's a ton of people packed into a very small space. And if you're targeting which movies you want to do properly, and then, I mean, that's a ton of people that already have at least one shared interest in what you're already doing. You know, if you're going to, if they ever make another Lord of the Rings movie, go do those demos. We have a Warcraft movie
Knights of
coming up.
Badassdom, man.
Go do those demos. All those people are already interested in the genre and will probably at least want to watch and take the time to find out what you're doing. And that's a lot of people on opening night. That's a lot of people packed into a small space. It's a great way to drive exposure.
No, and that's a great point. And like you said, we've got Warcraft starting off, I think, June 10th. And there's a couple different threads already going on Facebook trying to encourage some lessons learned and stuff there. So hopefully this will be out in time. And if it is, I encourage everybody to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, it's been a pretty fast 45 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
So we're going to start wrapping things up. So if you would, just a couple closing comments. If I watched 60 seconds of this and it was the last 60 seconds, what would you make sure that I took away from it? Alby?
Like I said, get out, get the message out. Get involved in your community as well, because people will see that and say, "I want to go be a part of that." And on top of that, just be a positive experience at your park. I mean, keep people engaged, involved, have something planned because they want to come out and do something. If you do the same thing every weekend, it's going to get old and tiresome. Come out and plan things. Make them get involved with it. Ask them to do stuff. People like doing things.
Moose, foot stomps.
Biggest thing that I keep touching on is communication, positive reinforcement, positive attitude. Talk well to these people. If you have an issue, take a note, take them aside, and try to figure out the solution to the problem, and make them feel welcome and make them feel included.
10.
Number one thing is when you're looking at how to drive and recruit and retain players, approach it from the perspective of you are selling the Amtgard experience. And so you need to find a way and really drive home like how to expose, how to get the word out, and then how to convince people that this is something worth giving up 4 hours every weekend to come do. They've got to find that value.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your event. I know, Alby, you're running the event and we've got everything else going on, but thank you all for taking the time to sit with us for a little bit. I know, as always, I gained a lot from talking with each of you, and I'm sure everybody else did. If I could, a quick round of applause for our panel members. And thanks, everybody. Again, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.